Michelle and David to the front for our listings conversation.
We're done.
Do boy, girl, boy, girl.
Which one am I?
Or just girl, boy, girl.
We can do whatever.
Well, thank you guys for being here. I did send them the questions ahead of time, so I know Anne likes to be very prepared.
I was prepared.
Surprises.
I'm all ready.
Yeah, and we'll make time for the end for any questions and answers, that sort of thing. But obviously the reason that these people were asked, which thank you, Gary, for arranging this, is they all do a big business and a lot of listings. So, last but not least, we'll get started. You want to just share who you are?
Yes,
Those who don't know you?
yes. I'm Ann Sepp. I've been at the office for, I think 15 years in real estate, just over 19.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm David Blanton. I've been in the office since January 27th, 2012, about 2:30 p.m. Been in real estate one way or the other since 1998. Just got that.
Yeah.
I'm Michelle Vanderwolf, with Georgia Homes on My Mind, and Keller Williams. And I've been here at this office for 18 years.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. All right, so we'll start off. And we'll start with you. So question one, what is the most significant change you've seen in the local market recently, and how has that impacted your listing strategy?
Yes. This year, I'm not gonna do the compensation thing. I'm not gonna, because we're all kind of experiencing that. In my business, what I've noticed going on listing appointments is that I've come up with people that are telling me that they're interviewing multiple agents. Where I didn't really I didn't come across that as much, whether or not that was like because I got more referrals before or whatever. So I kind of had to adjust things, knowing that I was going up against more agents through the interview process. So I kind of had to come across as I need to do things that other agents aren't doing. And it was kind of like, I've got to wow them. I've got to have something that is going to stand out, and you all may do this, but I wasn't doing it. Maybe after 19 years, I was becoming kind of complacent. I was just, I'm going to get the listing. I was being a little cocky or whatever. So I amped up my listing presentation through what I have in here, got a little bit fancy on my graphics, whatever. I now do these, and I just happen to have this because I have a listing appointment after this. And so I go to the door with fresh flowers with branded ribbon, and I have this little branded sticker, and I immediately hand this to them, and they're really taken back. They're almost like, they're taken back with surprise, and they're kind of a little bit, I don't know what the word is, they're more.
Sounds like an icebreaker, but not.
Exactly,
Yeah.
they're just more relieved than nervous or something like that. I've actually won 2 listings off of this, since I've added this year. And so, again, it's kind of like a surprise, it's surprise and
Surprise and
delight.
delight.
That's the term I'm using that now. And doing things that others aren't, knowing that the market has changed where they're actually interviewing more people. And I don't know what that is, why they're doing that. Maybe because the market has changed and they don't know, they want to kind of explore why there's changes in the market, and so they're asking other people. So that's kind of my tactic because of the market changes, is do this surprise and delight and add more things to do what other agents aren't doing. So
Awesome,
that's what I'm doing.
awesome. David, how about you?
Just a couple things. First of all, I'm meeting more apprehensive sellers. In other words, they're not as convinced because of the interest rates or the market or the economy or those kinds of things. So having that good conversation with them and asking good questions and then shutting up and letting them tell you. That's important. I think sometimes we show up when we want to do a song and dance, and it really is all about them and how we make them feel. And then on the pricing side of things and the condition side of things. So it's pricing and condition much more than it was in the past. Or I won't say in the past, but in the recent past. And so really helping people understand that, yeah, this does need to get painted. Yes, this carpet does need to get replaced. Because we're not going to be able to get the home sold at a good price unless we do these things. And just really getting down into the nitty gritty with that. And being comfortable sharing that as a fact as rather than an opinion.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes, Michelle?
We have to take the same approach, and we've always done, not always, but for the last quite a few years, we do a pre-listing bucket, which is a paint bucket, and it's full of like cleaning supplies and things, because we take the approach of getting the houses. We try to get them perfect before they even hit the market. And I think that's why we have such success with days on market of the listings we've had this year. We have an average of 7 days on market before they go under contract.
Good job.
Round of applause for that. Good job. Yeah, it's the little things. All right. Michelle, we'll start back with you. Beyond the standard MLSs, online portals, and social media, what is your specific proactive marketing plan for a property? And can you provide examples of your marketing materials that you use?
I brought a few things. Of course, we use all the social media platforms. We also promote through, we have a list of people that we've met at open houses. We've got about 150 people in that. So whenever we get a new listing, we'll blast that out. If we can, we'll walk a neighborhood, invite people to open houses. We'll do aging caravans. It just depends. Depends what it takes.
Awesome.
One thing that I've incorporated in is the Zillow 3D tour. So Matterport had a moment, and some people still do Matterport. It's just not super accessible, where the Zillow 3D tour is always available through Zillow, obviously. And so sitting down, it's a $225 expense, like with PhotoForce, I think, if I remember correctly. And it really wows the seller when I'm sitting there and showing them. The other thing is, of course, the standard for all of us should be professional photography, like period, point blank. And if you are competing, taking in a listing that doesn't have professional photographs and doesn't have a decent staging, like, and comparing and contrasting with what you do will really make a huge impact.
Do we see your song and dance?
Good question. Nope, not today.
I do farming, which I've done farming for a gajillion years, and I won't stop because I would have like FOMO or something that I would miss like something. And so when I go into listing appointments, I do highlight that I do farming, and a lot of people don't do farming anymore because of the cost, and they think that they won't get results because usually people aren't consistent enough and don't do it long enough to get the results. I usually, knock on wood, will get a listing appointment from every single card I send out. So, so I use
Every round of cards you send out.
yes, and sometimes it can be every just listed card, so sometimes I could send out 1,200 cards 4 times a month, it just depends. So I use that as a marketing tool for listing appointments. And then open houses, and Ally, I'm going to use you as an example because I amped up my open house game because you did an open house for me. And I was like, holy crap.
Thank you.
She's doing it right, y'all. So she did an open house for me in my own neighborhood because I was too lazy to do it. And, I'm dead serious, y'all, listen to the story, I'm serious. So she sent me a picture of what she had, she set up her cute little open house. Oh, you were there too. Did y'all do it together? The two
Oh,
of you?
it was Taryn, I
Oh,
believe.
Taryn, that's right.
Yes.
And I was like, what do you have in those bags? What is on the table? What cookies do you have? This is amazing. What is on your cute little water bottles? I'm like, I am so embarrassed because I thought it didn't work. It was a waste of time, okay? And so, and when you figure out what your dollar per hour is and you're sitting in an open house and your dollar per hour is $200 an hour is what your dollar per hour is, and you just wasted $400 sitting in an open house for nothing, it's a waste. So I saw what she did at my open house in my own neighborhood, and I'm like, you've got to step this up. So I've been doing open houses, following what she's been doing. Y'all listen to this. I did an open house at my open house last weekend. I am literally going after this meeting to the next door neighbor's house to list that property. It's already a done deal because they walked in and they saw what I did. And that was because I stepped up my game because what you did in my own neighborhood. So anyway, so, but back to the marketing thing, it's like doing those open houses for the listings that you're going in. Yes, you want to sell that property, of course you do, but it's also marketing to the people that come around and doing the 10 by 10 by 10, dropping off postcards to 10 across to the left, 10 across to the right, 10 across the street. It's doing those things and working the listings and using that listing as your leverage to find those other listings is what I was gonna say about that, y'all. I cannot, thank you, Ally. Thank you for making
Great
me not be
job.
Thank you for
bored.
noticing.
Yeah, and stepping up my game from all these years, so I thank you for that. And the other thing I'll say, and we'll move on, because you have a ton of questions on my house, you're gonna get all this done. That was a
Okay,
ton
we're
of
good.
questions.
We're good.
Was that working off-market properties, because I went back and I looked up all the listings that I had for this year and the sold ones, and two of them, and I'm working another one, is off-market properties. I've sold two more off-market properties so far, and it's only in May. And that is utilizing the properties that you've sold with multiple listings and working your network and your database from people that say, I think I'm gonna sell. And they don't like off-market properties, so if it's being recorded, I'm sorry. Broker,
I don't hear a thing.
boys.
Mhm. We can fast forward.
Is
Mhm.
finding those people and making those matches for people that may not be ready, but you know that you have multiple offers, two multiple offer properties. I made those matches for people that weren't ready and they're like, you have a buyer? I'm like, yes. We sold those like that. And one was almost $75,000 over what it would ever sell for. And we sold it. It's closed. So making sure that you're networking these people by utilizing and leveraging the listings that you have to make the connections with those people. So that's where I'm saying when you're
Yeah. Know who's in your database, know what
Yes.
they're looking for,
yes,
communicate.
having the
with them
list,
often.
oh, they want a walkout backyard. These people have it and they said one day they're gonna list, connect those people together.
My question was,
I'm sorry.
how many listings did you guys do last year and how many have you done this year, just to get it?
I've had 8 listings so far and I have 4 in May.
I've
That's
only
not
had-
the 8th. That's not the 8th. That was January through April was 8. I have 4 in May.
Yeah, I just have 3 listings this year.
I've had 5.
Awesome. How do you utilize digital marketing and social media to target potential buyers for your listings?
I really do not do a good job with social media, to be honest.
We have a tool now that can help you.
Yeah, this is low tech shell here, so, I do have an assistant and she does help me with that. She markets and promotes that. We do not use social media. I would not be the person to ask about that.
Okay,
Now, I'll talk.
because that's not your business.
I'll-
That's not your
I'll
business.
talking great about what we do with properties and the staging portion,
Mhm.
the social media is not.
For me, I just do, again, not hitting social media at a high enough level, doing a little better now, but doing the Facebook ads through
Mhm.
command, geo-fencing them, to 15 miles, which is also another thing that the average, buyer of a home is within 15 miles. And so when I sit down with the seller and we talk about the marketing budget and those things, I explain that I'm geo-fencing it to 15 miles because that's where they're gonna get their biggest bang for their buck.
Well, David just did a video and it was great, and he did heart hands and everything.
I know, I
It
saw it. We
was
jumped on the
great.
kitchen countertop and.
It was
Mhm.
great.
It was good.
And I'm so comfortable with
I
it,
know.
as you can tell.
Yeah, between that one and Devon's with the little mini door,
Oh,
or
I love
whatever,
that,
like that was awesome. Yeah, I still think, yeah, that was awesome. Okay, and then Anne?
Well, geofencing, I don't even know what that is, so I don't do that. Yeah, no, I have a social media manager, which is what I call her because it's kind of fancy. I don't do any of that. So I pay somebody to help me with that. So I
Mhm.
can't tell you any of that.
But
That was
you're
a question. I was like,
consistent,
first one to answer, I don't know.
Yeah, she's very consistent on any listing you have.
Yes.
Your branding is very consistent. It's
Yes.
all the same. How it looks is very consistent. So every time I see a post, like I don't have to look, I know it's yours.
Yes.
So I think that is the message in, how are you building your brand? Is it
Mhm.
consistent so people can identify you without actually seeing your name? I think that's a big one. for-
All she says, what do you have new? What do you have closed? Da-da-da, and I
Yep.
just send it to her and she does it.
Yep, awesome. All right. What is your philosophy on pricing a home in the current market and how do you arrive at the suggested listing price?
Did you skip that?
I skipped one,
Oh,
just one.
Okay, all right, good. It takes me about an hour and a half to price the house. Oh, I see, good, I see you skipped it. It takes me about an hour and a half to come up with a number that I'm confident with. I pull 6 consumer sites, 2 CMA sites, 1 tax sites, and I pull RPR. So I pull all those sites to make sure that I'm confident with the number. Most of y'all probably, well, I would think maybe y'all pull those same sites. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, I don't know. And then a lot of pre-qualifying questions. Questions such as if you were to compare your house to a model home, new construction model home, that is a 10, how would you rate your house compared to that? If they give me a number 5, I probably know that their house is not updated. Or if here's a question I would ask, if you're watching a show on HGTV and it's the final reveal, how would you rate your home based on 1 through 10? If they say, oh, those homes are so pretty, I would say a 4, then their house is probably not updated. So questions like that. So when I get down to the end or down through my, doing my Q&A, and I see some of the homes that are popping up and they're priced at 800, whatever, but they're giving me 4s. And I adjust the price based on that. So it's very time consuming, but sometimes I'm off, sometimes I'm not. So that's how I do mine. It takes me a long time, but I use all those sites to do it. So
David,
David,
have-
the sites again,
what's that?
the sites again.
I use 6 consumer sites because the consumers are gonna be looking. They're not dummies. They've got the resources out there. I do 2 CMAs. I do a quick CMA through FMLS, and then I do the full adjusted CMA through FMLS. These are just the ones I use. I use the Realist tax site just to see what the taxes are saying that's worth. And I do RPR to see what RPR is saying. And then I use all the pre-qualifying questions just based on how they're rating their own house, just based on the qualifying questions.
Awesome.
Yep.
David?
So one of the things that I always like to ask them is, what do you feel like your home is worth? Right? Or if you were a buyer, what would you pay for your home? Many times I'll get pushback on that. Well, you're the expert. Absolutely. And I'm sure you have an opinion. If I were to write you a check today, what would that check need to say? I'm gonna push at least 3 times. I'm not gonna not go on the appointment if I can't get it, but I'm gonna push 3 times for where they think that their house is worth. The reason why I do that is because if I am in line or above them, then I don't really need to worry so much about the evidence. If I am below them, I have to have just a bulletproof argument for why.
Preparation.
Does that make sense? And so, I'll take in active listings, I'll take in withdrawn listings, expired listings, and closed listings. The reason why I take in withdrawals and expireds is because most of the time those are overpriced properties and I can show them the fate of their pricing decision if they decide to overprice. And then we look at the actives that are on the market and specifically bring up the fact that we have competition. And that if you were a buyer and you could buy this home or this home for this price or this price, which one are you going to see? And so just making sure that they really understand that, it's not how much they want to get out of the house, it's how much the market's willing to pay. And we're not the people that are determining value. All we are the people that are helping them understand the market.
Awesome. Michelle?
I use similar sites. I also use the Remind. I do not use RPR. I'm not familiar with that. I just closed on a property that I was having terrible difficulties coming up with price because it was in that area right past Gwinnett County over into Barrow where there's multi-million-dollar houses. This was on 3 acres. It was just a basic house. So I suggested they get it appraised and I told them I would pay them back at closing, which I did. And that helped get the numbers. So don't ever be afraid if you cannot come up with a number with a unique property, just get some help.
Mhm. Awesome.
Well, and even if you can come up with a number and they won't buy the number,
Well, yeah.
an appraisal may be an additional piece of evidence to help sway them into a reasonable value.
This is leverage. Awesome. All right. How do you handle price reductions or strategy shifts and if a listing isn't generating the expected activity? We'll start with you.
I've been in a weird market where I haven't faced that this year. In the past, I have, and I've had a talked about that we would have price reductions at
Mhm.
certain intervals. Sometimes I even put it in the contract, but.
Well, you're
that
pricing
isn't-
right. You're pricing for the market.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is awesome. Congratulations. And I just want to highlight, so Michelle, she is an amazing, like you do the pop buys and you have your VIP program, so your whole business is built on that. And so she is very intentional. Like talking about, you don't do social media, like that's not where you build and or spend any time in your business. And you've just done a really good job with your database. So if anybody is looking to build their business that way, she's a great resource. So David, how about you?
So one part is setting the expectations up front, and just that if we've been on the market for 10 days and we haven't had 10 showings, or if we've had 10 showings with no offers, then we've missed the market and we'll need to revisit that. And so setting that expectation up front is important. Now, if I have somebody that I believe is overpricing the property, then I will actually want to write it into the listing agreement that at such and such date, we will reduce to such and such. Because even if you have verbal agreement, when you go to call them and say, hey, you know how we
Forget.
talked about? No, I don't remember that.
Mhm.
So putting it in the contract. And then the other thing, if you are calling them every week, you're building credibility. And what I mean by that is, at any point they have to call you and ask you a question, and and you haven't followed up with them, you've lost. You're losing credibility, you're losing their trust, because they feel like they have to chase you down. Especially if the answer is not an answer that they want, right? Like, hey, why aren't we getting showing? Oh, well, we should do a price reduction. If I'm being proactive about following up with them and having those conversations along the way, and I'm touching them at least once a week. And I try to do that on Mondays personally, unless it's when I'm teaching pre-license and it's a Tuesday. I talk to them about the activity over the weekend or lack thereof. And nobody wants to call with bad information or bad news or lack of news. But make the call. You're building credibility and trust so that when you need to ask them to adjust something, whether it be condition or price, you're building the credibility to be able to ask them that question.
Awesome.
I agree.
Pam?
I'm gonna piggyback off that, and then I'll add one more thing. I do have an overpriced listing that I agree is overpriced, and they agree is overpriced. But we still priced it at that, because it was a family situation, and the court, I didn't know a court could dictate the price, but can a court dictate price? Okay, well, the court can dictate the price. But we agreed that every 14 days, we're reducing it 2%. So it is in the listing agreement, and a date is in there that every 14 days, with the date, it will be reduced. For 3 times, the date is in there, and then thereafter, every 14 days, it will be reduced. So it's very clear that it will be reduced 2% every 14 days. So mine is clearly written like that. So I used to follow the 21-day rule, because that's what Bold taught us, every 21 days, and you just revisit the comps and rerun the comps, whatever. But the comps can be all over the place. So I learned in a top 50% thing I went to that there's a percentage that has been working a lot better, and I've tried that, and it is working better than just rerunning comps, because the comps are everywhere. So what this group said, that it's what you said, but it came up with a percentage. If you're on the market for 14 days and you have 10 or more showings and no offers, you're 1 to 1.5% too high and reduced by that much. Okay? Everybody hear that? If you're on the market for 14 days with less than 10 showings and no offers, you're 2.5% to 3% too high and reduced by that much. And it was working for this group of top agents. And so I tried it. This was very recent though. The showings did increase. We still don't have any offers yet, but the showings ramped up considerably from where it was when we first started. So maybe that is a good rule of thumb to try that percentage reduction. I don't know.
I'm gonna get with you after and get that exact.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, this was-
can you
this
say
was
that
like Top
again?
agents were sharing this percentage. I was like, holy cow, wait, that's for 19 years. I've never heard this. So anyway,
Were you a top
Repeat it one
agent?
more time.
oh, sure. Huh?
So were you a top
I was
agent?
in there, but didn't know that. You want me to repeat that? Okay, 14 days, 10 or more showings with no offers. You're 1 to 1.5% too high. So reduce it by that much. Okay? If you're on the market for 14 days and you have less than 10 showings and no offers, then you're 2.5% to 3% too high. So reduce it by that.
That'd be more than 3% high though.
It could be more than that. It could be totally more than that. Like mine, that's gonna be reduced for 2% every 14 days. So,
That's awesome. Thank you.
okay.
Everybody get that?
Yes.
Okay. What is your preferred method and frequency of communication with your listing clients? We'll start back with you, Ann.
Okay. I do what David does, except I do mine on Wednesdays. I talk to my active pending, clients every single Wednesday, regardless if I have anything to share. I communicate with them, open house, showings, whatever. Hey, your neighbor's house next door sold. Sorry, we had no showings, whatever it is. I communicate with them every single Wednesday regardless.
And so somebody has asked this before. If something comes in between Wednesday and the next Wednesday, do you wait till Wednesday or you communicate also in between?
I will wait till Wednesday if I have nothing else to say.
Okay. David?
Yeah, I think that, Monday or Tuesday is when I will talk to my people. I do that every week. And then, I will let them know that I've reached out for feedback, because that's a question that I get a lot. Did you, do we have any feedback? And so I basically say, hey, I sent a request, and I only do this with text. So I don't make this phone call. I just shoot them a text that, hey, I reached out for feedback on the showing on Saturday, or the showing earlier today, or whatever that looks like, just to let them know that I'm doing that. Again, trying to be proactive and ahead of it, so if they call me and say, hey, did you get feedback? And I say, no, I've asked, to me, it just feels like it hits different than if I've sent them proactively a text saying, hey, I asked for feedback, I haven't
So
got
I
it
do
yet.
do that. I do do that.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I don't wait a whole week if there's a showing.
Okay.
Sorry.
And then what's your method of communication? Is it
Somebody's a little bit worried about not being a top agent.
text and email and call, depending on what the communication is?
Wait, what?
No, your communication style. Do you text, call, and email?
Whatever it is. Yes.
But you hit on all three levels.
Yes.
Regardless of what. Okay,
Yes.
got it.
I'm sorry, David.
You're totally right. No, I mean, honestly, sitting in between these two amazing agents, I'm just glad I've got some crumbs to throw out here, so.
I'm sorry. That was rude.
No, I do wanna say that always be mindful, and a lot of people know this, but if you don't, always be mindful of how your client wants to be communicated with and make that your primary. Now, I still wanna have a one time a week where I can talk to them on the phone, because we can't, text and email can be misinterpreted. We can't convey tonality, all of those things. So once a week, I definitely wanna talk to them on the phone. However, if I have little things and it's an older person, they may want me to call and I'll call. If it is a younger person, they may want me to text and I'll text. I don't know that I have any person that wants email, but I'm sure they're out there.
Okay, awesome. Michelle?
I like the phone. I'm old school. I mean, I will text. And depending on the person, how they want to receive that information, but I can find out so much more by tonality and actually talking to the person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is frustrating. People leave feedback. If you go take the time to do the feedback, we automatically send it out through showing time 3 times. So if we pick up the phone and call, We text
don't-
the agents, and there's some agents that will not give you
They do
feedback.
not answer the phone.
They do
don't
not,
respond,
no,
so-
and it's just very rude because certainly they have listings, I would hope, on the other side, and they know how important it is.
They're all, yeah, how that
Take the
feels.
time to do that.
Mhm.
Thank you for saying that. I've been very frustrated recently with agents. There's no professionalism. They
None.
won't respond to my texts, they won't respond to my phone calls. And it's hard to give
Yeah.
feedback
It is.
to your
Mhm.
clients. if they
And
don't
it's
help.
not that you're not trying, because you're trying a lot.
Teach them how to do better.
Market where people were able to come in and stick a sign in the yard and it sold in 38 seconds. And you still have that hangover. right?
Yeah.
But people that have been doing this for longer than that time frame that remember that word, that feedback is important. So don't be the agent who doesn't respond, who doesn't provide feedback. Do the full part of your job, not just the one little part of opening the door.
No, that's awesome.
Tell them you'll sign that commission form when they give you the feedback. That'll get some people talking. Because that's the only time they'll answer the phone.
Okay, and I'm skipping down one because the next question you guys have pretty much already answered, so don't let throw you
Get my
off.
glasses on.
The next question, Michelle, I'll start with you so she can find it. What is your negotiation strategy when receiving offers?
I like to address that up front. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, they're so excited, I heard my neighbor got multiple offers. I hate multiple offers. I think it's really, really difficult to navigate through that. It's very stressful for me. But I tell the clients, look, there's one of the few ways we can handle this. We can put out and say, best and final offer is due by such and such a time, or we can negotiate the best offer. And I believe negotiating the best offer is the way to go. Because if you do the best and final, a lot of people will say, I'm not gonna play that game, and they pull out. So I prepare them. It's not always what you think it is. It's not always about price, it's about the terms. And I find that, works pretty well.
Awesome. David, how about you?
Just, so on the multiple offer thing, we put everything into a Google Sheet with all of the parameters, and so, and we share that Google Sheet with our client so that they can go through and look at everything. We schedule a call and we forward, because legally we have to forward every single offer that we receive, right? So don't fall short there. And then we also suggest that we not do highest and best, specifically because of that we will go and we'll pick honestly, we pick the best parts of the contracts that we want and try to get those into one specific contract. So it could be, we like the financing contingency or no financing contingency here. We like the sales price here. We like the due diligence here. And so we start at the highest price and we try to get the terms and this is all client directed. I don't get to make that decision. All I get to do is advise them. But this is the advice I give them, and most of the time that they'll go with that, right? So we try to get them the most money with the best terms, and the way to do that is to leverage the offers against each other. When we don't have any offers, like right before I came into the meeting, I got a low offer on a property. And I'm not gonna go into too much of it. When I talk to them, I know that they're not going to be super receptive, and it's just about helping them keep their emotion between the lines. And I urge my people, not always successfully, not to be the first person to walk away from the table. Let's just keep going back until we know that we can't find a deal here. And keeping them engaged in it as a business transaction, even though it's their personal home or the home that they're buying, can be a challenge. Just trying to keep them in that mindset and how can we create a win here? And then on the negotiating side with the other agent, not being adversarial, and just saying things like, Michelle, we're on the same team here. We're both trying to get this to closing. We're both trying to get a deal done. My client just won't do this. Does that make sense? So can you come up with another solution? We get paid in direct proportion to the number of problems we solve. Sometimes that takes creativity. Don't try to be the only creative one and be the only one with solutions. Empower and engage the other side to find solutions as well as you try to find a way forward.
Awesome.
What's your timeframe typically, that you get, let's just say you have one or two offers, do you usually say, hey, you have 24 hours, you have 48 hours? I'm trying to understand being I have a new listing, what the typical is.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Are you saying to the buyer's agent, like, you have this long to get us an offer?
Oh, no, yeah, they've given, me the offer. How long do I have to decide to respond?
The
Okay.
time limit of the offer, I think. she's
Right.
asking.
Yeah, so at the bottom of the first page, there will be a time limit of the offer. And on the listing side, the buyer's typically making the offer, there's a time limit of the offer.
Okay.
And so, now, once you get an offer, I personally like to leverage that offer and call everybody who's shown the home and say, hey, we've got an offer my seller's gonna be considering. Do your clients have any interest? If so, they need to get an offer in, right? And basically get that verbal, and then that can help me coach my client on what we should do with that, the offer that we have. I don't know if you guys do that or how you guys handle that.
You guys ever requested more time? Like, okay, we wanted this 2-day period, and you're like, well, we've actually got several offers and we request to have this decided by Friday, and that's 4 days away or something, because we have several offers to consider, and that works.
As long as your seller's okay with it. So, your seller may look at an offer and it may have a short time frame, and it satisfies what they want, and they may not want to risk that client or that buyer, I should say, going away. You just need to make sure again, we don't get to make these decisions, our clients get to make the decisions. All we get to do is advise our clients and and basically get their decision.
I'm like Michelle, I don't like multiple offers either. I feel like somebody's always losing out and you're the one in the middle. I don't like them. I know that sometimes the sellers do, because they're gonna probably end up netting
Some more money.
somewhere. They're gonna make it better for them. I kind of play it like the personality of the seller. If they're a more emotional person, they may just go with the touchy-feely of what the buyer's wanting, where the business person that's going in for the deal, they're gonna probably want the multiple offer situation. I never promise multiple offers ever. I just kind of play it out by the type of seller it is, but if I got multiple offers, I did used to use Command with the different, I forgot what you call it, where you put it in, you put your.
analysis?
Yes, I did use that, but then I did found that just sending them the email, forwarding the emails with a summary of offer one and then the highlights, that worked better for everybody because they just kept saying offer one and they would just pull the emails up. I don't know. I don't really have a strategy, but that seemed to work because they just go through the emails. Oh, I see this and then whatever. I put little comments, but whatever. I haven't had I've only had one multiple offer this year, and that's where I leveraged out the 2 off markets. So it kind of did really work out to have the multiple offers this year, but I don't really care for them, but it kind of worked out, so.
Awesome.
I'm sorry, just 2 quick points on that. Number one, if I know that it's an area that has a lot of activity at a price point that has a lot of velocity, then I aim for multiple offers. If it's a higher price point, I aim to price it just above market or right at market to where I can give us the most leverage in the deal. Leverage comes from 2 places, either starting point or other buyers. And so if I have a place where I know that if I price it in line with market or slightly below, I'm gonna have 5 or more people, then I'm gonna aim for the multiple offers. If it's an area where only one house has sold like this in the last year, I always price it at market or slightly above market to give us room for negotiation, because I'm gonna be negotiating with one person.
This will be our last question. Because I want to give Andrea time to respect her time for upfront. So I'm going to go back to number 4 and the one that I skipped originally.
Ooh, number 4.
But I know that's Michelle's wheelhouse, and there's anything else that you highly focus on your business that I want you to make sure that you share, we'll do that. But I know, Michelle, this is a big one for you. Can you walk us through your process for preparing a home for sale, including staging and photography, and do you use professional photographers and stagers?
All of the above.
All the above.
And I have in my back pocket all the resources of the people I recommend to come in and get the properties ready. And I explain how important that is. And a lot of times, the sellers are very receptive. A, they might not have the time, or B, they might not know who to call. So I'll arrange all that if I have to and coordinate and get people in there. But I've got people that'll come in and do huge jobs, or they'll just paint the front door just to get a pop of color. And they'll do the little stuff and the big stuff for me, because I'm consistent and use them all the time. If you have a seller that you know does not have the cash to do some of the things, I've also arranged for pay at close for certain vendors. And again, because they're loyal to me and they know that I would never stiff them. I
If
will
something
always-
happens
something
that doesn't
happens,
close, they're still gonna get paid.
They're still
Right.
gonna get paid,
Right.
yes. But we try very, very hard to talk to our people and tell them staging is not about design. It's about appealing to the most amount of personal tastes. And we tell them very specifically what we're going to be doing, but we tell them if there's anything sacred here that you don't want our little grubby hands on, you need to let us know. Because we've moved ashes before, we've moved things that we had no idea that they were important to someone. We started the mailbox. Look at mailbox, make sure the number's easy to read. We want our people to be able to get into the properties. We always we don't say use GPS. We want people to know if they're trying to line up their showings, what part of town they can line them up. I mean, everyone uses GPS, but sometimes it doesn't work, especially in new properties, it doesn't pull up. So take the time to do that. We just go through all the steps, talk about how important it is to pack up all medications, firearms, jewelry, personal effects. We'll sometimes spend 2 days at a property, staging a property, moving stuff. We just pull out all the stuff and we try to make it look like a Pottery Barn catalog. We don't want it too traditional. We don't want it too contemporary. We just want to feel most amount of things, but
Know that, for those in here that know Ryan Assad, he's the #1 agent, over at the South Forsyth office. His #1 thing is the light bulbs. He goes through and changes every single light bulb to all be the same light bulb. So you don't have different color variations in the paint, or it looks like the paint is faded. He goes through and makes sure that all the lights are exactly the same. That's one of the things he always talks about, which I just find so fascinating, and it's such an easy thing to do. But he just goes in with a whole box of light bulbs and changes all the light bulbs all the time. He has a list.
we
Makes a
we
big
don't
difference.
fit that. But we do have light bulbs and we swap them out. We always make sure all the lights are working and all the lights are similar in a room.
Yep,
So.
yep. Awesome. David, how about you?
So two things, we are pretty hands-on during staging. If we leave it for them, we give them a checklist, even then, it turns out that they don't always follow the checklist super well. So we tend to be pretty hands-on, so we'll schedule 3 hours or so to go over and actually move furniture. And we'll explain to our sellers that that's what we're doing, we are there to stage the home. Because that way we can make sure that it gets done. And we do the staging after we have them do any repairs. So like if they have touch-up paint or carpet to replace or carpet to repair or cleaning, anything like that, you have to get the canvas ready and then we'll go over and stage. And we have basically an outbuilding that we have some staging materials in. We do soft staging for vacant houses, which is just like a dining room, kitchens, baths, those kinds of things. So we don't do a full stage, typically. We just do soft staging, so it doesn't feel quite so industrial when you walk into a vacant house.
Awesome. Same thing.
What's your opinion on virtual staging only versus like actually staging at home?
So my opinion is I don't like it, but I'm going to defer to these much better agents.
We've picked up AI staging, which is amazing. Amazing. Like the new listing I just put in. Amazing, you would never even know. I mean, if you know, you know, but if you just click, you'd never know. AI staging.
AI staging.
We're required to have something on the photos that say that, aren't we?
I put in there that says virtually staged under the pictures where you can go in and where it says dining room, it says virtually staged. Or in the description, I say, this dining room is virtually staged, so you can use your own imagination on what to do.
Yes, please do that, because if you don't, you will get some very upset phone calls. Yeah. Because they call here and say, your agent misrepresented the home, and they, yeah.
Or it's a virtually staged and then the empty room right next to each other, so you
Yeah.
can see the two.
What's
Yeah.
the range on price point?
My person charges me $5 a picture. But I don't know if she charges everybody $5 a picture.
There are tools out there.
But I don't.
And
have
Justin's
time.
doing a whole class on that coming
I
up,
don't
so on
have
all the
time to do
tools that
it,
can help you
so-
with all that, so,
She does it for me.
yeah.
So, anyway.
Yes, we can wrap up. I want to thank you all so
Sure.
much. I hope somebody got a nugget, if not more, out of this. And just know that they all operated at a super high level, all very